Something strange happens when you stop chasing her, something she can't control, can't explain, and definitely can't ignore. Her phone feels heavier all of a sudden. That smile she had on her face when she knew you would text first, it begins to break. And here's what no woman wants you to know. The less you chase her, the more room you make in her mind. Not a blank space, space that is too much. The kind of mental space where she goes over what you said last time, thinks about why you didn't talk, and starts to wonder if she made a huge mistake by not valuing you more. I'm a woman. I know exactly what happens in our heads when a man we thought would keep pursuing us suddenly stops talking. What I'm going to tell you today will change the way you think about attraction for the rest of your life. This is the harsh truth that most relationship experts won't tell you. The best way to make her not want you anymore is to chase her. But stopping, that sets off psychological triggers that she can't control. Stay with me until the end because I'm going to explain what happens in her mind hour by hour, day by day, when you step back, and what I say in the last part might be the most important thing you hear all year. Last summer, something happened to my friend Sarah that I want to tell you about. Sarah is beautiful, successful, and always gets attention from men. At a networking event, she met a guy named Marcus. He was charming, funny, and asked for her number, and for the first week, he texted her every day. Good morning texts, checking in during the day, and memes at night. Sarah had fun, but really? She wasn't impressed. She would take a long time to answer. There were times when she didn't answer at all. She knew Marcus would keep texting her no matter what. Then things changed. Marcus stopped talking, not angry quiet, not quiet in a passive-aggressive way, just be quiet. 3 days went by. No text, no call, nothing. This is where things start to get interesting. Sarah had been very casual about this man, but all of a sudden she couldn't stop thinking about him. She kept checking her phone over and over. She went back through their chat history to look for clues. She asked me, her friend, if I thought she had been too cold. This self-assured woman, who had a dozen other men in her inbox, couldn't stop thinking about the one man who stopped trying to get her. There was no magic here. Marcus didn't learn this trick from a pickup artist forum. This was just basic psychology. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why this happens and how you can use this information in a moral and useful way. But first, you need to know something very important. This isn't about being mean or playing games. This is about getting to know the psychology of attraction so well that you never again waste your time chasing someone who doesn't deserve it. Most men never learn this, and it's not their fault. For a long time, society has been giving men bad advice. They say to keep going. Women want to be wanted. Never give up on her to show her you care. And yes, there is a tiny bit of truth in there, but the way it was done, totally wrong. When you chase a woman without stopping, you're sending her subconscious mind a very clear message. You're saying that your time, attention, and emotional energy are less important than hers. What you're really saying is, I have nothing better to do than chase you because you're the prize and I'm just a contestant hoping to win. Does that sound good to you now? No way. A study in the European Journal of Personality found that people who seemed to have a lot of options were rated much more attractive than those who seemed desperate or too available. The researchers called this the scarcity principle in mate selection. In other words, we want what we think other people want, and we really want what looks hard to get. But here's the psychological twist that makes this even stronger. When you always chase her, you're also taking away an important part of what makes someone attractive: uncertainty. Dr. Erin Whitchurch at the University of Virginia did a really interesting experiment in which women were shown profiles of men who were said to have looked at their profiles. Some women were told that the men really liked them. Some people were told that the men thought they were average. And what about the third group? They were told they didn't know how the men felt. Can you guess which group thought the men were the most attractive? The group that isn't sure. By a large amount, women were most drawn to men whose feelings were hard to read. The uncertainty really made people want to be with each other. And when you're always texting her, chasing her, and being available, you're getting rid of all doubt. You're giving her the answers before she even has to take the test. And that test, that way of thinking, wondering, and hoping, That's where attraction starts to grow. Now, let me explain exactly what goes through her head when you stop chasing, and I'm going to be very honest here because this is something that women don't often say out loud. The first 24 hours are the confusion phase. At first, she doesn't notice much. She has her own life and is busy, and to be honest, your constant attention had become background noise. But around the 12 to 24-hour mark, something changes. She knows you haven't talked to her, and this is when her first instinct kicks in to check. She looks at her phone. She checks to see if she missed a message. She checks to see if her internet is working. This isn't something you do on purpose. It's automatic. Her brain is used to your attention, and now that it's gone, there's a small but constant signal that something is wrong. The analysis phase starts on days 2 and 3. This is when the real mental work starts. She starts to think back on what you last said to each other. Was she mean? Did she say something that wasn't right? Is he angry? The interesting thing about this stage is that she is now putting mental and emotional energy into you. The roles have changed completely. You used to spend your time trying to figure out what she was saying, sending her texts at just the right time, and wondering if she liked you. What now? She is doing all of those things. And putting your heart into something, whether it's good or bad, makes a connection. You become more important to her the more she thinks about you. The anxiety phase starts on days 4 through 7. We're now in a dangerous place for her mental health. She might send something casual to you, a meme perhaps, a reference to a joke that only a few people know about, something that lets her deny it while still letting her in. If you've really stepped back, you might not answer right away, or you might only say a few words. And this? This is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, which is the strongest schedule of reinforcement that behavioral science knows of. That's why people get hooked on slot machines. The fact that the reward is unpredictable makes the chase more interesting. But this is what's really going on behind the scenes this week. Her brain is making cortisol because she isn't getting the attention she thought she would. Her dopamine system has gotten used to getting regular hits of your validation, and now it wants what it's not getting. She may feel a little anxious, distracted, and unable to focus on other things. She might say to her friends, "I don't even care." But she might also bring you up in conversation 3 times. I have been there. A lot of women have. We've been through this mental storm when a man we weren't sure about suddenly left. And the annoying truth is that it works. Not because women are crazy, but because our brains are wired to value things that are hard to get and question things that take away. Let's talk more about why this works on a neurological level. Knowing the science will help you do this without feeling like you're playing games. Dr. Robert Cialdini, who literally wrote the book on how to persuade people, said that scarcity is one of the 6 most important rules of persuasion. What he discovered about scarcity is especially pertinent in this context. We don't just want what's rare, we want what we might lose more than what we might gain. This is called loss aversion, and it works really well in dating. You didn't feel like you were losing anything when you were chasing her. You were always there. You weren't going anywhere. You would still be waiting so she could answer whenever she wanted. But when you step back, she has to face the idea of losing you. That possibility makes parts of her brain that are linked to fear and anxiety work. Now things get really interesting. According to a study from Stony Brook University, people spent more time thinking about someone when they weren't sure how interested they were in them. More time means more space in your mind. More mental space means more emotional importance. This is why women often like men who aren't completely available more than men who are obviously devoted from the start. But I want to talk about something important here because I don't want to encourage manipulation. The reason stepping back works isn't because it makes women like you. It works because it shows that you are real and interesting. You have a life, you respect yourself, and you won't lower your standards by going after someone who isn't interested in you. Look at it from her point of view. It's attractive when a man has choices, is sure of himself, and doesn't need her approval to feel good about himself. Not because women are playing hard to get, but because being confident and self-sufficient shows that you are a good person. When you chase after these signals all the time, you completely ignore them. Dr. Helen Fisher, a well-known biological anthropologist who studies love, says that romantic attraction evolved in part to help us find the right partners. And one of the most important signs of suitability? Status. Not just how much money you have, but also how you feel and how you interact with others. A man who chases after something seems to be of low status. A man who steps back with grace seems to have choices and a higher status. Now, I'll tell you some things that the other side doesn't want you to know. Things women think but don't say very often when a man stops chasing them. The first thing is the battle of pride. Most women won't say that your silence bothers them. They'll say to their friends, "I'm not interested if he wants to play games." But what do they really mean? There is a war going on. A part of her is glad she doesn't have to deal with messages all the time. But another part, the part that wants attention and validation, feels hurt. She will think, why don't you want to chase me anymore? What changed? This internal struggle is strong because it keeps her in your mind. She's arguing with herself about you, which means she's thinking about you. And every time she thinks about you, the neural pathways that connect to you get stronger. Second, there's the trap of comparing. When you stop chasing her, she automatically starts to compare you to other men who are still trying to win her over. And this is what she'll notice. Those other guys don't seem as attractive anymore. Why? Because they're too easy to get. They answer too quickly. They want it too badly. She now sees everything that bothered her about your pursuit in them, but more so. And on the other hand, your new distance makes you seem more important. Last month, I talked to my cousin about this, and it was a perfect example. She was seeing two men at the same time. One texted her all the time, was always there for her, and always said nice things. The other person was there, but not too much, and they were responsive, but not desperate. When I asked her which one she thought about more, she laughed and said, honestly, the one who's harder to read. Not because he was playing games, but because the uncertainty gave her mind room to fill in the blanks. Third, and this is very important, there is the fear of making a mistake. She starts to wonder about her own actions when you step back. Did she not appreciate you? Was she too chilly? Did she forget something real? This self-reflection is important because attraction isn't just about how she feels about you. It's also about how she thinks of herself in relation to you. She starts to rethink both your worth and her own judgment when she realizes she might have undervalued you. So now you know why taking a step back works. But how you do it is very important. If you do it wrong, this is just playing games. When done right, it becomes a natural way to set boundaries that shows respect for yourself. First, taking a step back doesn't mean you have to disappear completely. You're not trying to ghost her or act like she doesn't exist. You're just changing where you put your energy. You only text her once a day instead of 3 times. You can also respond when she starts. You are still warm and friendly, but you are no longer the one who is chasing. You're there, but you're not pushing. Second, your stepping back has to be real and not just a show. This is important because if you're just sitting around worrying about what she said and checking your phone every 5 minutes to see if your strategy worked, you haven't really stepped back at all. You have changed how you act on the outside, but you are still chained emotionally on the inside. Eventually, women can feel this. A man who acts like he doesn't care, but clearly does, is not being honest. To really step back, you have to put money into your own life. It means working toward your goals, hanging out with friends, and becoming a better person. The change in her mind will only last if it's based on real self-improvement and not just putting on a show of distance. Third, never back down when you're angry or upset. This isn't punishment. This isn't payback. This isn't I'll show her. The energy behind what you do matters because it will affect how you act when she does get in touch. You'll be petty or cold if you're angry. If you really feel safe, you'll be warm but limited. Fourth, keep in mind that you should give and take. The whole point of this is to match energy. Text her back if she texts you. If she tries, say thank you. You don't want to be unavailable. You're trying to find a middle ground. You don't want her to chase you while you run away. The goal is to make both sides invest in each other equally. Let me give you a few examples of how this works in real life. Theory is great, but practice is what matters. David, a man, came to one of my coaching sessions feeling completely defeated. He had been trying to get the same woman for 6 months, 6 months of hard work with almost no reward. She would sometimes respond and accept his invitations, but things never got better. He was tired, angry, and ready to give up completely. I told him to stop starting. Don't say anything. Don't explain. Just stop. Think about anything else. He didn't believe it, but at that point, he had nothing to lose. 3 weeks later, she sent him a text to check on him. A week later, she asked them to go out to dinner. She was the one who wanted to be exclusive after 2 months. David didn't change anything about himself except how available he was. He just made room for her interest to grow on its own. Then there's the other example. Monica told me about a guy she was dating who did everything right at first. He was charming, sure of himself, and didn't text too much. She really liked him. Then things changed. He might have thought she was pulling back a little, or he might have just gotten scared. For whatever reason, he started chasing hard. Messages that say, "Good morning," messages to check in, asking over and over when they could hang out. Monica's interest dropped sharply in just 2 weeks. She couldn't even say why. She just knew the attraction was no longer there. The men's inherent worth didn't make a difference in these two outcomes. It was about how they acted and how that affected how they felt about being attracted to someone. So here's what you should take away from everything we talked about today. When you stop chasing, you give her mind room to fill up on its own. You change the relationship from one where one person is chasing the other to one where both people are equal. You don't smother attraction by being too available. Instead, you let it grow on its own. But here's the most important thing. This only works if you really respect yourself and not because you want to get something out of it. The man who stops chasing because he values himself will always be more attractive than the man who stops chasing because he read it would work. Being real is important. Energy is important. Intention is important. If this helped you, I need to tell you something now. There is a video on your screen right now that goes even deeper into how women think and feel. When a woman craves an older man, she always tests him with these 2 questions, is the title of the video. What I say in that video is something that most men don't figure out until it's too late. Women have certain tests they use, 2 questions in particular, to see if you're the real deal or just another option. If you don't know what these questions are, you will fail them without even knowing you were being tested. Click on that video now. Once you understand these tests, you'll see every time you talk to a woman in a whole new way. I'll meet you there.